As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'm gonna roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road, lights, camera, action, I'm ready to go. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. This is Tom Ficklin, and I was chatting with Garry Tinney. Gary's our guest today. It's so much before 10 o'clock rolled that we're starting a little late because I got started babbling and getting loose at the mouth. But Garry Tinney is with us. The theme of the show is Freedom Fighters Do Not Retire. Freedom Fighters Do Not Retire. Garry has been was a member of the New Haven Fire Department for almost 30 years. Is that correct, Garry?
27.
Yeah, 27, but almost 30. Black math kind of has kind of an elasticity to it. But it dawned on me when I wanted to chat with him that he still is reasonably a young person, and he's just he has so much experience and commitment and also scars and but also muscles that his life is really maybe just taking even a new resurrected tone. And I'm kind of putting a few words in your mouth, Garry, but I'm looking forward to you're sharing with us what you've done and what you're doing and the legacy that you've left. So again, this is the Tom Ficklin Show, and Garry Tinney is with us. You retired as captain.
Correct.
And so what's the first level, just for people? What's the...
you start out as a private.
Mm-hmm.
Entry level as a recruit. You're on probation for a year.
All right.
And you're private, lieutenant, captain, battalion chief, deputy chief. And then from there, you can go to assistant.
Good. And so we're going to talk about a lot. Gary's been involved with recruitment and retention in the fire service, race and gender in the fire service. We're going to talk about community risk reduction, fire prevention, which is so important because we want to not abolish the need for firefighters, but there's a need to kind of have fewer fires. There's no question about that. And as when you see the EMT trucks, et cetera, Gary's going to reference that. So the protective services are still needed, but there's ways to not kind of protect yourself and to protect the first responders, so that we don't create conditions that are like so hazardous that they might even, let's be honest, lose their life. So these are people that, for 27 years in Gary's case, that have put their literally and metaphorically their life on the line for us. I mean, put their life on the line for us. In addition, we're going to talk about the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters, the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters, and community service. And Garry, just before we begin, in terms of the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters, I've seen some pictures that you put up on Facebook in terms of your various meetings, but it just seems that most of those meetings have been in Bermuda, Barbados, Puerto Rico. I know the word international is there, but we won't go too far. We'll come back to that later.
Okay.
But I love that. I love that when I saw, because we got to have fun in life, but also we got to have dedication. So let's jump right into our first point.
Okay. Good morning, Tom, and thanks for having me.
For sure.
I just want to start out by talking about recruitment and retention in the fire service.
Yeah, that's important.
Which has been a major challenge in the fire service. And unfortunately, some of the same roadblocks that we've seen over the years, or that we've seen 20, 30, 40 years ago, we see now.
Yes.
So part of our mission is to really prepare our youth and our communities to be able to put themselves in a position to become firefighters or emergency medical technicians or communications. There's so many different fields.
That's right. The various fields. I forgot about that.
And a lot of folks don't realize
that.
Yeah. So one of our goals was to, implement programs mainly in our schools to expose our kids to these fields. Because many, like myself, had no clue of what the fire service was about. I grew up on Southwest Drive, grew up on Division Street, didn't know any firefighters for a long time, and didn't know that they were EMS responders also.
Yes.
So we play an important part in our communities. And one of the things that I found really special about the organization, the IABPFF, is that our commitment, not just to the fire service, but to the community.
Yes, yes.
And to recruitment and retention.
Mm-hmm.
Because without that unit, they're not, as far as the numbers, as far as African-American firefighters or women, we're starting to revert back to the same numbers we had 40 years ago.
So the pipeline is maybe in some ways not if not necessarily drying up, but it's not. We really need to pump it up a little bit more.
Exactly.
So help us to locate it. Reason I was so glad that you were starting with this topic is you're just not talking philosophically, but you've been kind of involved in our pipeline and putting people in the pipeline, and at your retirement party it was really just so moving to see people that have gone through been recruited by you in terms of how they're manifesting and then becoming members of the department. So share with us if someone's listening and they want to get involved with things, if they're a high school student, et cetera. What's cooking in that regard?
Well, I mean, you have what I definitely would encourage people to do is make sure you retain your EMT certification.
Mm-hmm.
Some high schools have it. We have plenty of, like Gateway has it.
Mm-hmm.
You can get your paramedic certification and your EMT certification at Sponsor Hospital, which is right across the street from Wilbercross High School.
Cut it out.
And I'll give you an example.
Please.
You can have a 11th, 12th grade student that has an EMT certification. Once they receive their EMT certification, they can go into the paramedic program.
Mm-hmm.
Paramedic program, they have a 2 and a 4 year program. But say, for instance, if you get your 2-year certification as a paramedic, that's a national certification, and you could pretty much write your own ticket.
You can go
anywhere,
almost anywhere
in the country.
Good point. See,
and make possibly $40,000 to $60,000 a year right off the bat. And those are the things we need to start talking to folks.
So a high school student, if there's a high school student listening who's in the 9th grade now, in terms of their course selection and talking with their counselors for next year, their 10th grade, they could approach their guidance counselor and do what?
Yes, say I'm interested in the EMS field. I would like to. I'm interested in getting a EMT certification.
Mm-hmm.
Or then also the CNA. We started a CNA program.
Oh boy, see. Mm-hmm.
And it's not so much that and there's an interest there. In
yes.
The and fortunately, this young lady approached us and said, "Look, I want my CNA certification," and it's not just getting them that certification, but it's exposing them to the health field.
Mm-hmm.
So once they get the CNA certification, then they say, you know what? I want to go to the next step.
Yes.
I want to get my EMT certification.
Yes.
I want to get my paramedic certification.
Yes.
And you just put our youth in a much better position to prevail, to succeed in life.
And we have that metaphor. We can see the ladder with fire people on ladders, but you're also talking about creating the structure and a career ladder, a life ladder for people, a lifeline that has, if it's not infinite, but there's certainly various steps that they can aspire to and move up, in. And that's it. So, but talk about this did not just in terms of New Haven's presence and the various school collaborations and university collaborations. That did not happen overnight. You were somewhat involved with this. You may not be the Moses of this initiative, but you were kind of instrumental and very much involved from Jump Street. Is that fair to say?
Yes. I mean, you've had numerous people that really thought that this would be a great idea, but we had started the Public Safety Academy, and it took a few folks to put things together and say, yeah, this is something we want to do. But unfortunately, also it was a challenge.
Yes.
Some folks didn't want it, and still don't.
So elaborate on that.
Well, I mean, you have
in terms of their opposition.
Their opposition to, well, I'll give them a prime example. If you have, to me, as far as recruiting and retention, of hiring people from the communities they serve. Mm-hmm. I mean, that plays an important part, not just in fire, but in police also.
That's right.
So if you have a department and 90% of your department live outside the city or have no ties to the city, that's a problem, because even financially and operationally. Because if you arrive on the scene and you know folks there, which a lot of times I did, I knew folks, you're able to really change the scene.
Yes, but I'm not hearing where the opposition came from.
Well, the opposition is with you folks that live outside. Some folks want these jobs.
Okay, so an economic issue, yeah.
Yeah, it's an economic issue. So, of course, they don't want folks that live in New Haven to get these jobs.
As again, you're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show, and Garry Tinney is with us. Garry, for 27 years, has devoted his life, and I mean, let's be real. There are people, there are firefighters that he knows that that are not here today. So I mean, when you put your life on the line for whatever level of service and protection, it's something that's a kudo, and that's why I was so glad to have you on the show, Garry. And if just as a side note, kind of Google the New Haven Fire Department and kind of Google Supreme Court and just see what comes up, see what pops up. We're not going to spend all time on that issue, but when Garry referenced the opposition, this local opposition and also even national opposition to what does it mean for to live free in America without being napping while black, driving while black, sleeping while black, et cetera. So, but before we go to the next point, I guess a little bit more on this Public Safety Academy, because I can remember seeing you maybe 5 years prior to it starting. Tom, I'm going to do this here. You had your folder, your portfolio, your details. Do you know anybody? So it's that perseverance that I think people really need to know. When you have an idea and a vision, don't give up on it. You might encounter opposition, but be true to yourself.
No, that's definitely something I'm not going to give up on. And the goal is to put this program into all of the major high schools. Because the interest is there. The kids are interested in these fields, and these fields are lucrative.
Yes.
And that's another thing that folks aren't talking about. You know, and I mean, you talk about the benefits, the impact that you have on the community and the youth. It puts you in a place where you're able to, you know, and you're in contact with a lot of our youth. And it's a life changer. It's a generational change. I call the fire service the new factories. We used to have Winchester. We used to have all those things are gone. And our folks were able to buy homes, educate our kids. So these type of jobs are the new factories of the century. See,
and so again, you're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show, and if you're a parent or if you're ninth grade, 10th grade, even 8th graders, or even if you're going back to school or going to kind of adult ed kind of thing, if you want to learn more about this, what should you do, Garry?
I would have them call me. My number is 203-868-1578.
Now, wait, I thought you were supposed to be retired.
I'm retired in one sense, but there's still a lot of work to do. And I love seeing smiles on folks. And
freedom fighters don't retire. That's the theme of the show. So you're literally going to give your number out.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's hear it again.
It's 203-868-1578. And I also wanted to mention, if I may.
Please.
We started a online recruitment program. It's called Fire Recruit Center, IABPFF. And it's IABPFFrecruit.com. It's free. Please sign up if you're interested in the field. It gives you a lot of information. And these are one of the things that we do as an organization.
So share that again with folks.
It's Fire Recruit Center. Become a firefighter. Join now. IABPFFrecruit.com.
And as you mentioned, you have the various EMT and also the CNA you mentioned and
paramedic.
And paramedic. And so when you think about the sciences, when you think about there are jobs in the future that we don't even have names for right now, but we know that the skill set of chemistry and biology and math and just discipline and just learning and the human aspect of where life going, we see there's so many disasters unfortunately continue to occur. So we're going to need the first responders. We're going to need people that are trained to kind of respond to quite frankly, keeping civilization thriving rather than dying. And so and for someone that's passionate about society, we hear so often, Garry, folks talk about social change and social justice, but you don't have to just write a paper or protest. There's ways to really have an impact on people day in, day out, as well as maybe to basically, I mean, let's be real, to save lives, to have generations live beyond yourself. So if you're someone that's feel that you want to give back to society, as you referenced, this might be something to do. So if folks want more information, they can do what again?
They can give me a call.
And your number is?
203-868-1570.
Okay, I'm going to call Karen, by the way, and see if she knows.
Well, my number
she has a separate number, I hope.
Yeah, but it's out there. My number, it's out there. I give it.
And that's why I wanted to have you on the show in terms of your transparency and giving for so many years. What's the next point we want to talk about?
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about race and gender in the fire service. There's several books out there on race and gender. But that continues to be a challenge in the fire service. People don't realize the majority of the fire service are volunteers.
Okay, that's right.
And,
yes.
Volunteer departments. Over 80% are volunteers.
Okay.
So the other percentage, of course, is paid firefighters. most of the volunteer departments are in the rural areas.
Yes.
They're not in the cities.
Yes.
And so in a way, that Public Safety Academy played a major role in preparing our youth for public safety careers.
Okay.
So that was kind of a way to combat the resources that we didn't have in our cities. So again, going back to the race and gender part of it, if you look at the makeup of most departments, especially in the inner cities, the majority are Caucasian male firefighters. So for years, we've had issues with hiring. There's been several lawsuits pertaining to race and gender. Unfortunately, recently, we prevailed in 2 major cases in New York and Chicago, which played a major part in starting to turn around the numbers as far as women and not only just male and female and transgender. I mean, our fight, and what people don't realize, our fight is for everyone.
For everyone, that's right.
It's for fairness across the board.
That's right.
And unfortunately, some folks look at us or try to paint a picture of us as this hate group, or even a union we're labeled as. But we're not that at all. I mean, we advocate for a better fire department. Yes. A better community. And a better people.
Indeed, indeed. And it's so, we hear so much, and it's so easy in 2018, particularly given what's going on with the 145th imposter down in D.C. And certainly it's fair to say that society is so maybe divided now more as much as it was in 1859 prior to the Civil War. But I try for the show, Garry, not to kind of just be to utter too many polemics, but really to have people that are on that are fighting the fight for freedom and liberty and justice, but really being tangible and strategic and tactical about how folks can get involved and live and prosper. So I appreciate what you're saying, that even in 2018, race and gender issues are still an issue in terms of recruitment and fair play.
Oh, most definitely. And I think, I mean, unfortunately, again, we're right back to where we were 30 and 40 years. I mean, I'm the affirmative action chair for the International Association of Black Firefighters. And I receive calls pretty much every day pertaining to things that are happening across the country. Hiring, hazing, noose incidents. They're alive and well. And
so although you're retired, you're still maintaining this capacity as an officer for the International Association.
Correct.
And is there a particular 1-year term, 2-year term, forever, emeritus?
Well, most of us.
How long have you been doing it?
I've been doing it for a long time.
I see.
It's been a few years.
So you've carved out the space.
But fortunately, it introduced me to a whole nother family, which played a major life in my development.
Yes.
And for what's important to not only myself and my family, but to all the others that I come in contact with. And that's the part that I really embraced and said, you know what, these are a good group of men and women across the country that are fighting this fight. It's not a paid position, but it's a righteous position. And we stand on the shoulders of so many.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Here locally, again, you're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show, and Garry Tinney is with us, recently retired from the New Haven Fire Department as a captain after 27 years. But let's throw out Sweeney's name, throw out George.
George Sweeney, Raymond Nelson. They're like brothers to each other. And fortunately, when I met Raymond, he introduced me. He really convinced me to say, you need to take a look at this fire service. And fortunately, I did, and I became good friends with him and Mr. Sweeney. And just sitting down and listening to some of the stories and what Mr. Sweeney went through and some of the stances he took. I mean, he took some stances that financially cost him a lot. But he wanted to see, when I think of Sweeney, I think of a part of the movie in the Black Panther. When they talk about, I think that movie was about the masses, you know, about sacrifice and about, it's not just about you. It's not about the team of me, I call them. Folks that just think that because they've made it, that we made it. My concept, if we haven't made it, then I haven't made it. And I see that every day. And so when I met Sweeney and Ray Nelson and the family, you know, those things really crossed my mind and made me a better person.
Yes.
A better man.
Yes. You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show. And again, Garry Tinney is with us, recently retired captain from the New Haven Fire Department. When you mentioned the better man, Garry, and we talked a little bit about this at your retirement party, and I want to kind of throw this out to folks. Dr. Mayo, who was teaching at Jackie Robinson, I believe, at that time, kind of encountered you when you were a 7th or 8th grader.
Yes.
Share a little bit of that story. Dr. Mayo mentioned in public, which I was so surprised, and that will stand out in my mind for a long time, that we have Garry Tinney sitting in front of me, 27 years, retired fire captain in New Haven Fire Department. But Dr. Mayo took us back to when you were in 7th or 8th grade, and you were kind of a hardhead and a knucklehead.
Oh, yeah. I was.
I don't hear denial there, Garry.
No, I was.
Okay.
I was stubborn, hardhead, didn't want to listen to nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of mouth. And Dr. Mayo, he pulled me in and said, "Look, along with, of course, my mom and my sisters,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and said, you better change you better straighten up."
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, he straightened me out.
And for you to be willing to share that now, and it's so important. That story is so important when someone might be listening and think that they're either incarcerated or right now sitting in the Superior Court or local court or about to commit a crime, or just thinking about doing something negative, or just being depressed in their own mind. That we can change. We hear the thing that it takes a village, and it truly does. But I'm just trying to, for the show, to always offer up a little bit of hope and glimmer of inspiration, to have someone like you be here. And again, this was at his retirement party for Dr. Mayo to say this, and it was just so profound about way we can reach back to one another and be concerned and not give up on people. And not give up. I think that's
and that's the genesis. I mean, that's how we have to feel, because of course none of us are perfect, and we make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But fortunately, here in New Haven, we're surrounded by gems. I call them. When I see our elders out there, Mr. Dyson,
Bill Dyson, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, he was my teacher in Ivy Street School.
Bill Dyson, Jim Barber,
Mr. Barber,
Mm-hmm.
you name it. I mean, there's so many resources in New Haven, and we have so many wonderful people that really care, including yourself, about the vision of New Haven and about our people. And you see it every day. So we have a great opportunity to do so many things in here. We have the resources, but we have to stop butting heads. We have to come together for the betterment of our youth. And that needs to be the bottom line. And so I was afforded that personally because of the folks that have surrounded me and embraced my efforts. So we just have to continue to pass it on.
Perfect.
And don't think for 1 second that you've made it on your own, because you haven't. And we still have a long way to go.
Community risk reduction and fire prevention. I mean, and that's a big one that's a big one.
Well, when you talk about community risk reduction, a lot of folks don't even, a lot of departments have to embrace that. Some of them have it.
Okay.
You talk about going into the schools, talking about fire prevention. Fortunately, I was able to attend the National Fire Academy in Emmitsburg, Maryland. And one of the classes that I took was community risk reduction.
Okay.
And they talked about the different programs that they have in the cities that really prevail, not just in fire reduction, but fire, medical issues.
That's true.
Escape plans, home escape plans.
You forget about that. Yes.
You think about the elderly.
Yes.
And, them not, we as an organization, a local organization, New Haven Firebirds, I mean, we continuously go to the housing and spend time with the elderly and talk about fire prevention, share meals, lunch, breakfast with them. And it's a major part of the fire service. And there's a lot of money there to continue those efforts. But we have to put pressure on our city politicians and our departments to continue those efforts. Okay.
Well, let's jump for a second as a sidebar to our new chief. And how are we? Is Chief his last name escaping me? It's Chief John Alston, who had retired himself, and then he kind of saw that New Haven was very attractive and knew you guys, and now he's here. So is the New Haven department kind of jumping on or understanding the importance of the community risk reduction in terms of their current policies?
Well, fortunately, he's been exposed to the community risk reduction efforts, especially in New Jersey and across the country. So some of the folks that are surrounded by a lot of the folks that we know know the importance of community risk reduction and what it means.
Yes.
And not only, again, in fire, it's in job opportunities too. So when you talk about community risk reduction, when you talk about hiring are putting folks in a position where they can communicate with their families about fire prevention. It plays a major role in the development of their life and the safety of their lives and their homes.
Give us a few tips, because I was talking to, I know you have the department has some staff people that have that kind of title, the safety.
Well, I'll give you an example. Yeah. At one point in my career, I've been advocating for a community relations position because that's so important to get out here and to educate our kids to talk about these different issues and for them to see you.
Yes,
we have to be in the fires. We have to be more visible. Unfortunately, folks don't know the importance when you drive by a fire truck and people see you from your community and they know you and they see the different. They're like, wow, that's something I want to do. But then you get a chance to sit there and talk to them and talk about what not to do and what to do. Not just in the fire prevention, but in all around. I mean, with the different challenges that our youth have in the inner cities, we have a great opportunity, or we're in a great position to make a difference in their lives. So that's something that I've talked to Chief Austin about on numerous occasions, and that's important.
Sure. And I know you guys will have a presence at this coming Sunday with the Freddie Fixer Parade. I think Chief Austin's one of the parade marshals kind of thing. I was talking to one of your friends, your colleagues, and they mentioned just the thing of just even the strips that have the various electrical things in them, that those can be fire hazards.
Correct. Yeah.
So just say something about that.
Well, I mean, even during the holidays, and especially when folks put up their trees and the lights and those strips, they're loaded with. They have so many different things plugged into these strips, and that becomes a hazard. But we, as a department, have to be more hands-on when it comes to that, and that's what that community relations position would do.
Indeed.
I'm advocating for that because that's something that's very important, and that's because of my position on issues. Folks fought that position.
See,
wholeheartedly.
So, and I'm again, that's why you're going to come back on the show where we're going to talk about more specifically politics and societal change and societal opposition. But so my pause is I have a few more proactive things I want to cover before the show is up. And you've referenced that in some ways where we haven't made progress in the last 30 or 40 years, I would offer that we have made. There's been sustained efforts to make progress, but there's also been sustained efforts to defeat our progress. So sometimes we feel that we're going back, and we may be, but it's a constant tug of war. And so you're advocating, and I'm trying to advocate as well. The more troops we have on the battlefield, perhaps we could be more successful. It's not that we may be being pushed back, but it's not because we're not trying to push as well. So this engaging in society, and whether you're sleeping or napping in a common room, or waiting for your business partner to come to Starbucks, or whether you're in your backyard out on the West Coast kind of thing, and bullets kind of, or whether you're driving in Atlanta and you're a grandmother, you're 65 years old, being dragged out of your car. These are really some fascinating things going on, but you are still bringing hope and life and inspiration to folks continually. Let's jump to New Haven Firebirds real quick.
Okay. The New Haven Firebirds.
People need to know that we have an organization that's been so sustained and active and aggressive, and your food drives, your coat drives, your picnics. I mean, just.
Well, you name it. Again, that's something that George Sweeney was very instrumental in. George and numerous other folks. Wayne Ricks.
Oh yes, Wayne. Yes, yeah, former president.
Yeah, that were real passionate about community. But the Firebirds, some folks refer us to we're the boogeyman in the room, and all I've done, and you saw it at my dinner. You could see the population of people that were at the dinner, the makeup of the folks. You saw the shift. My shift was there that were with me for years, but the majority of the room were African Americans, and I've committed myself, or I've advocated throughout my career for fairness for everyone. And when I see something that's wrong, or I believe to be wrong, I'm going to speak on it and take a stance on it. And that's all I've done, and committed to community. And that's what the Firebirds have done. They've committed to the mission of the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters. And all we have, we're not a different union. We're referred to as a union. We're not a union. We're a group of individuals that want to see opportunity in our communities and a safe communities, making our communities safer, and engage in work efforts and mentoring and you name it to just make it a better place for our kids. And that's what our organization's about. And unfortunately, folks have, they look at us as this black union, and it's so far from the truth. We do great work, not just locally, but nationally. We've touched so many lives in the New Haven Firebird Society. And that being said, don't be afraid to join the organization because you think you're going to be ostracized. And when in some cases you are, but that's okay. And
again, you listen to the Tom Ficklin Show, and Garry Tinney is with us, recently retired captain from the New Haven Fire Department of 27 years. Garry, if folks are just tuning in, if you're a high school student or ninth grade or even just graduated from middle school, or a parent looking for the kind of thing about the summer and what should happen in the fall when your son or daughter or just someone that a young person, you could be your young person and your neighbor that might be a ninth grader or a 10th grader. There's some opportunities that they should know about. How should they kind of connect or find out more about EMT, CNA, certifications, even curriculum, high school courses to take, et cetera, the Public Service Academy?
Well, again, I would encourage you to go online and pull up Sponsor Hospital, Gateway Community College, and there's numerous community colleges that offer the EMT cert. But what we have to start doing too is it's a cost factor there.
Okay.
I think initially when the emergency medical EMT certification was introduced, it was around $400, but now I think it's somewhere around $1,500. And what we do as a New Haven Firebird Society is we offer scholarships.
That's right. You had your scholarship dinner.
Yeah, and we have a scholarship named after George Sweeney. Currently, the president is William Augustine, and I would encourage you to go online and pull up our website as far as pertaining to scholarships.
Yes, indeed.
And that's something that our educators should look at too, as far as offering monies for these career paths. And one part of that career path I forgot to mention was some people go into the EMT paramedic and become physician assistants.
See, oh boy, that's really fascinating. And
right.
and just for you to mention that the EMT, the physician's assistants, the CNA, we know that the STEM, we have the STEM acronym for science, technology, and et cetera. But so the reason we have STEM, the word STEM, because again, that skill set, that knowledge base, the sciences and the math, and the biology, et cetera, who knows where the world is going, but we know we're going to need this information. We're going to need people with this capacity to kind of integrate it and understand and also execute processes, how to administer what's when people have the opiate withdrawal, you have
the Narcan.
Even the Narcan. There's just so much we don't know what's going to happen in terms of biological warfare. Obviously, the more the trade center kind of situation we know could happen again. So, but there's just so much. Ebola, Ebola was stopped. It didn't get to the United States, but certainly so. There's just so much that from where's society moving? We know about viruses kind of being transmuted, et cetera, in the hospitals. But there's just the skills that these people, that young folks can acquire, not putting down colleges, but the skills that they can acquire even prior to college. It's just incredible. This is an opportunity. A shout out, by the way, to Paul Brody, at the new president of Gateway Community College. As most people know, he's holding those two hats of Housatonic Community College president as well as Gateway Community College president, and the recently retired Dorsey Kendrick, who I believe was really involved with. Yeah. Let's give a shout out to Dorsey in terms of her vision.
Yeah. I mean, those are, again, we have the resources to succeed. And one other thing I wanted to mention too that we did, and we talk about disaster preparedness.
Yes.
And in the programs, we have certified CERT kids, high school students that are part of the CERT program that can assist in disaster preparedness. They have the certification.
So walk me through. What does that mean if there's a disaster of some sort?
If there's a disaster, they can assist with Red Cross. They can help us.
See, perfect.
Just putting them in that room.
So they're on call. How would practically? Give me an example.
Say for instance, if we had a flood
Indeed.
in New Haven.
Indeed.
And we needed some assistance in the auditorium.
Mm-hmm.
They're given a kit. They're given a knapsack with safety tape and tools and a hard hat. And I mean, those things might seem simple,
but
it means a lot to the spirit and the development of a young.
Sure. And it's ultimately saving a life. I mean, a small wound you can bleed out from even just a small wound.
Yeah.
And see, and that's so. I'm just excited to hear that about the linkages. I'm always curious about how people can assist, regardless of your skill level, regardless of your socioeconomic status, regardless of your age. And this is just so inspirational to hear. And again, it gets back to your mentioning the youth and the importance of training people and giving them the opportunity and sharing with them the vision that we are one society and the collective society. I think we have two more things on our schedule before you come back again. And I might even ask you to kind of bring one of your students, your proteges.
I would definitely do that.
Proteges with you to kind of chat, because we all school systems are criticized and superintendents are always criticized. But I'm not into necessarily criticizing. There's others that can do that, the particular leadership. But I am into that we all can take ownership and be accountable for things.
Exactly. Yeah.
The community service mentoring, giving back to the community.
Well, community service and mentoring has been the nucleus of my development.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so important to me, and not only just myself, but my family.
Mm-hmm.
I know personally how many lives I've touched and what it meant. That's my reward. When people, continue to say, Gary, why don't you just go sit down and
sit down and shut up.
Shut
Gary.
up.
I'll fill it in for you, man.
Yeah, well, that doesn't go over well.
That train is left.
Yeah, it left a long time ago.
That train is left.
And my sisters wouldn't allow me. But not only my sister, my daughter wouldn't allow me.
Yeah.
But community service speaks volume.
Mm-hmm.
And again, when you hear the testimony, like you did at the dinner from them young folk,
yes,
how you touch their lives, the difference in them making that bad decision, that decision that puts them in a position where they're labeled a felon and ruined for life.
Yes.
Or, those second chances mean a lot to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when I say community service, I just don't mean going out and giving toys and there's so much more to that.
Yes.
And the story and the lives. I'm very passionate about sickle cell.
Okay.
Anemia and our outreach towards that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you invite me back, I'll talk about the challenges we've had pertaining to.
Oh, for sure, we'll have to do, because every September there's the walk.
The walk, right?
But Jim Rawlings is very much involved. You guys have a location there. And,
yep.
But there's some recent research that I've just seen on some trials for sickle cell. But again, we have to participate in these trials, particularly as a black people, to kind of help for the validity and help for them to get the market kind of thing.
Right. For them to tell their story. Unfortunately, I just had a young lady. She lost a daughter.
Mm-hmm. How did you get involved with the sickle cell situation?
A friend of mine. I grew up on Division Street, and he suffered from. And I used to always ask my mom, why is he always going to the hospital?
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, we became like brothers, and just seeing him, and then working and going on these calls and seeing the pain and suffrage these young folks, not just young and old, that what they have to deal with, their allergies to pain medication.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of them can't take the pain medication because they're allergic to it.
Okay.
And we're in where I was in the field where you see folks that are really hurting, and that was just seeing. I can never get that vision of going in that house and seeing that young girl, 8 years old, in the corner, balled up in a knot because she was in so much pain.
Mm-hmm. Is it like pins and needles? And burning.
Yeah, and breaks, like somebody's just twisting your bone.
Okay.
And visually, it doesn't sit well with me. And again, we as a people, as a community, need to do more for folks that are suffering.
Indeed. This is the Tom Ficklin Show, and Garry Tinney is here, and you've already 27 years on the New Haven Fire Department, recently retired as captain. But the indirect purpose of this show, Garry, was for you to publicly let people know that what are you going to be up to now? We know about their international situation, but
Well, that
I know
alone,
you're going to Martha. I know you're going to MV in August, but you know
Yeah.
we won't elaborate on
That's
that.
Wakanda. Everybody has.
Oh yeah. Okay.
We you
All
know
right.
everybody's been told that you can't go there unless you're wealthy, and I'm not wealthy, so
But you've
I'm
been there.
But
But
to
you've been there.
experience to see that community, to see those, it's just it speaks for itself.
Yes.
So
yes.
I mean, it speaks for itself.
So August is coming in and
But
enjoy.
again, we have our national conference this year in Atlantic City.
Okay. Is that open to the public?
Yes.
Okay.
The business meeting ends, but the conference itself is.
Okay. And this summer or this fall or
In August, the beginning of August.
okay.
We have a regional conference in the 35th anniversary of the Bridgeport Firefighters. That's June 22nd.
Okay. Are tickets still available? Do you think?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are the things that we do. We train.
Mm-hmm.
We recruit. We educate. When you talk about upward mobility and training, these are things that we've done and we continue to do.
So the internationals will be kind of a primary focus for your involvement.
Yes.
Now you have more time to even
Yes.
commit to it, and I understand that you've mentioned that it's a volunteer. You don't have paid officers.
No, I'm not paid.
I mean, but none of the
The
officers-
president is given
the
stipend,
a
but
small
it's-
stipend.
Yeah,
But you're like ex officio spending. I
Yeah.
can see you're going to spend some time with this,
yeah, I've been paid spiritually.
and you continue to feel paid about it.
Yeah.
So that's and just to let people know, when you say international, and I was kidding about having your conferences in Barbados and Bermuda, but how broad is that international scope? Does it include Europe as well, or South America, or Canada, or
Yes. Well, my region is from Canada all the way to Philadelphia.
Okay.
We have different regions,
Okay.
Northeast region.
okay?
And we have different directors of different regions.
Mhm.
I'm the director of the Northeast region.
Okay.
So I stop at Philly.
Okay.
But the founding chapters were started here in the Northeast region.
Okay. All right. All
So
right.
we're the founders.
And so you guys have a region in Canada
Mm-hmm.
and the Caribbean.
The Caribbean, and we have members from London.
Okay, and Europe as well. See?
Yeah. And across the board, Barbados.
Barbados as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we have to do when you're going back to having the events at different places, we host them in areas of different parts of the region.
Mm-hmm.
So the Caribbean region was the Barbados.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
why we had our conference in
Okay.
Barbados.
Yeah. That's your story, and you're sticking to it.
That's
yeah.
it.
Right.
But again, the same thing. We're promoting the same efforts that we promote here.
And I appreciate you saying that, because we hear often about the NAACP and the Links and the Urban League and our other organizations. But here you have an organization that people may not know that's also international in scope. And really, I mean, all those, or I'm not trying to say there's other organizations don't provide service and delivery, but here you have a specific occupational, but it's a broad-based occupational. But it's people that are protective services we forget. And just as a metaphor, we're going to have to find some way to make society safer and for people to feel more healthier and whole and just feeling comfortable with one another. And when you mention your community prevention and your community outreach and working with youth, this is kind of have an impact, as you referenced when the show first started. Beyond just a job, it really can have an impact in terms of society being just feeling more liberated.
Exactly. And then one of the things I wanted to mention too,
Mhm.
that's one of my favorite quotes
Sure.
by James Baldwin.
Okay.
He always says, "I hear what you say,
Yes.
but I see
Yeah.
what you do."
Yeah.
So that's what I hear what folks are saying.
Mm-hmm.
I hear it all the time, but I see what you do.
Indeed.
So do right.
See.
Do right.
See.
And and that speaks for itself.
Mhm.
When you're doing right and you're passionate and you're empathetic towards the issues that we face in our community,
Yes.
then we'll prevail.
See.
We can't save it, but we'll save a lot. We'll save a
Mhm.
lot of folks,
Mhm.
and that's my life's goal, is to make a difference in lives.
Boy, and we're about to wind up, and that really was a good last word. But I want to give you a second last word, and just as we conclude, again, this is the Tom Ficklin Show, and Gary, thank you so much for being with us. But when you reference Baldwin, and obviously a voluminous kind of author and so well known and so profound, but obviously the fire next time kind of jumps into my mind when you mentioned Baldwin. So, and Baldwin talks about this fire and how we all will be engulfed in flames if we don't kind of put out the fires and create more of a less hostile environment and try to those seeds. Sometimes those embers are burning, and if we don't squash those embers, will create the world becoming in flames. So We don't. The fire next time is certainly a good way to conclude. We have a firefighter and a fighter for freedom with us, who is never going to retire. And Garry, I want to give you the last word and thank you for listening to the Tom Ficklin Show. Any parting thoughts as we conclude?
One that I forgot to mention really quick was that we right now in an academy we have, I think, over 24 African Americans in the training academy.
Mm-hmm.
That's a number we've never had. And fortunately, through the efforts of the NAACP and other organizations in the clergy and the New Haven Firebirds and International Association of Black Firefighters, we've made a difference. But we have to keep a...
That gets back to the pipeline issue you mentioned.
But we have to keep an eye and make sure that these folks prevail.
That they graduated.
Yep, and then they're not taking out the process. We also have 5 to 6 females. So we
Tremendous.
please, I'm just asking folks to pay attention to it and keep an eye on it and make sure folks are treated.
When might they graduate, roughly?
I think
4
a couple
months, 5 months?
2, 3, 4,
All right.
3 months.
So maybe we'll get some of them back
Right.
and get the chief back on and get you. And again, this is the Tom Ficklin Show and get so appreciative about it could be the fire next time, but we all in some way can be firefighters that kind of just, make things a little more peaceful. We all can kind of put out some flames and we see sometimes when people erupt with their emotions or erupt with their language. And how can we kind of just enable folks to kind of be more peaceful and harmonious with their speech and not kind of trying to ignite negative situations, but to kind of ignite peaceful situations. So, Garry, thank you so much for being on the show. I will talk to you next week. And Harry, thanks to you as always as well. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
I sit from night to dawn, I right my wrongs alone, in competition with warnings, ice galore. Now I'm running toward them highlights, I'm finished being a quitter, but little by little, they joking, telling some riddles. Now I'm in my section.